Hey, what's going on, guys? Got CheFPV here. Zero ground FPV, all that stuff, 500 below. Um, we've got the Mavic, the DJI Mavic here today on the bench, and I wanted to go through a flight log and talk about an experience today. I went out into a situation that I was pretty capable in flying. I was pretty comfortable knowing that I had flown actually worse conditions with other aircrafts, which is the real big lesson to learn here is I went and did this with a fresh new aircraft I had barely flown very much or known, and made some assumptions about it without really knowing. So there's a lot of talk about wind conditions and flying the DJI Mavic, but this video or this little chat is going to pertain a little bit more about not just with Mavic, but kind of just talking about the situation, and not just this situation, but any situation you find yourself in when you're flying one of these, drones. Whenever you feel anxiety or feel like I don't know what else I can do or what do I do because this is not right, you have to try to calm yourself. Now, that's easy to say in any situation. Oh, just calm down, right? Well, it's true, but you can still be kind of panicked because you kind of should be because you do have something just hovering in air and flying around or whatever's happening. Um, but you do have to kind of calm down and start thinking clearly about what to do and how to solve it. So, a couple of things presented themselves today, and kind of like rookie mistakes that I made, as well as just bad judgment, and also how I did get my copter to fly back to me, or how I got it back to flying it in an extreme situation. So that extreme situation is this: we went out today and flew. We knew winds were gusting all the way up to 40, 45 miles an hour in our area. A pretty decent, you'd have a calm couple of minutes and then all of a sudden it would burst up and you'd have like 20, 30, 40 mile an hour winds for, a minute, two, three, four at a time at the most. So we went out with our FPV copters, our, 200s, 220s and stuff with some guys. And I had my Mavic and I showed up early. And I went up for a flight with one of my 220 FPV rigs, which is a really high performance, not much, not much smaller. Actually, here as it is. This is the one I flew right before it. So not much bigger actually than a Mavic, right? And it's funny I have this here because I want to talk about some of the motors and what a Mavic really is. But the Mavic really, in standard conditions, performs really well. Like it performs like a very high performance. It feels very Phantom 4-ish and almost kind of better in a weird way. Well, today it all kind of made sense, and I should have known better because, again, I fly many copters, and I knew by looking at the Mavic that it was not a standard Phantom as far as hardware wise. So one thing to note about the Mavic is it runs what would be an 8-inch prop. Don't worry about the foldingness of it, but it's an 8-inch prop when it's extended. It's not a 10-inch prop or a 9.5-inch prop like a Phantom series. So that, coupled with the fact that it runs what appears to be, I don't know, I'll have to double check, but that appears to be a 20, I don't remember what the motors are, but like a 2008, 2010 maybe motor. But basically what I'm getting at is this motor is definitely more of a mini quad motor than it is a Phantom series style motor. And they can do that and get away with that because of the size of the aircraft. And so they coupled whatever these motors are. I'm sure they're a lower KV though, with an 8-inch prop, which is going to displace much more than, a mini quad necessarily, but it's spinning a little slower than a mini quad motor. But basically what I'm getting at here is, I have named this kind of the replacement for the Phantom, and I do believe that. I think that the Mavic will take the Phantom's place as far as the consumer model that sells the most and is the most popularized. But it is not as powerful when it comes to fighting winds or carrying payloads or things like that. And today's exercise was a bit of a definite writing on the wall to be careful in high winds because it would have been very easy for me to have lost this thing today. There was a moment where I actually thought, yeah, I better jump in a car with a friend and go try and start going after it because I don't know if I can fly it back. But luckily, Mother Nature let up a little bit, and my reactions and being able to calmly stop and think and I had the whole kind of thing planned out as it was happening got me through it. So what did I do? Well, let's take a look at the logs. So we're over here. You're going to see the stick movements. Here's the throttle. Well, this is the pitch. I'm sorry. This is throttle. But or the altitude. What you will see, I fly too many mini quads, right? What you will see is I start taking off here. Let's see if I can get this out of the way. There we go. And it tells me I'm in Class C airspace. It tells me I'm good. So I take off, and I'm in this little area. You notice that I'm at about 35 feet. I'm just hovering, kind of fighting the wind. Look at my full stick right now, facing into the wind, and I'm going 2 miles an hour backwards. It's already starting to push me. So I'm in GPS mode. I've only flown my Mavic a couple times, and I actually have not taken it into multi mode to where I can actually go into advanced modes. I should have done that before going into such a flight because I actually thought I had, and when I quickly realized that I didn't, that's when I got kind of panicked. But what you'll see is, so it starts pushing me, and I'm like, ah, ha, ha. I'm actually shooting a video right now. I'm like, look, it's pushing me. It's going to be fine. And I was comfortable. I still am. I turn and I look. You see the sticks are now full throttle into the wind, and I'm actually at 88 feet because I had gone up to make sure I cleared everything. I knew the height that I could be at to make sure that where I was drifting, I'd be okay. But at this point, I'm full throttle into the wind, full pitch. And I finally just say, you know what? This is where I realized I couldn't go into sport mode. I had just tried and it said, sorry, you can't go into this mode. And a buddy of mine had just pulled up. And so I kind of get with him. I'm like, hey, you might have to drive real quick. Just stay where you're at. And I start going through and I start letting it drift while I start going through the menus to set up multi-mode. So this is where I start letting it drift, and I'm setting multi-mode up, and then right around there is where Mother Nature says, hey, and she let up a little bit to the point to where the copter catches itself. Well, that's right where I grabbed it. But it caught itself and is actually sitting here not moving for a little while. So it actually lightened up to the point to where the copter could actually handle GPS mode, which it's still in. So right here, I grabbed the throttle, and I know to get back to myself, the wind is drifting me this way, which means the wind is actually blowing more this pattern here. And the reason I say that is the reason why I drifted like this is because the copter was fighting it the entire time. So had it actually been in drift mode, it probably would have drifted more like this. So I knew when I first started to take off and start coming back, you don't go into and cross the wind this way because it'll still push you away. What you do is you fight it this way, going diagonal kind of across it. So I grab the throttle and I start fighting across it. And as I do that, you'll see that at one point, it lets up to the point to where I'm going a good clip. Not bad, like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then all of a sudden it kicks back. And this is where I just decide I'm not going to fight this anymore. I'm going to go ahead and flick it into sport mode and just get it home. So it did come back. But the point being, I only can get this thing really back to me right now because I kicked it into sport mode. And by kicking it into sport mode right here, you'll see, there she goes. And we start really coming back. And even at full tilt in sport mode, I get only up to 22 miles an hour in this wind. That is crazy. I mean, this was some really heavy wind. You'll go back through this. We can go back through real quick. You'll notice right here, gimbal pitch got warnings a couple times where I was fighting it so much and we were at such a high like tilt and pitch fighting the wind that the gimbal was pitched and exceeding where it could go or couldn't go any further, and it was warning me. Another thing to note, when I got a little panicky, my first reaction was to go chase it in a car when I didn't really know what else to do, because I couldn't get it into sport mode, and I didn't want, at that point I didn't want to take my throttle finger off. I didn't want to take my eye off the copter. So I'm like, what do I do? I have a good line of sight to drive. We actually could have pretty much watched it from the roads. You can see the roads. But don't go chasing it in a car, especially by yourself. Stop. Think to yourself, what do I need? More than likely in a wind situation, you're going to need more power. You just got to get into sport mode. And in reality, just let go of the sticks if you have to. Hurry up, get into the mode selections, let it go. You know, yes, I need multi-mode, let's go. And then flick it into sport mode and go. But really, don't get yourself into a situation like this. The only time I can really think that this is going to be something that a lot of people will experience would be if you're out flying and just a storm kind of pops up on you, or what you're shooting is kind of a storm area. But even then, guys, be safe, fly smart. I shouldn't have been up and flying. I don't recommend going to do wind testing like this. I actually was just kind of having some fun. Again, I had flown this exact same area in some much higher winds with the Solo and the Phantoms before. We actually had some Inspires in my Solo flying like 70, 80, 90 miles an hour out there like last year. But be safe, okay? Make good judgments. Don't put your aircraft up in the air in high winds, anything above 10, 15 miles an hour. In a Mavic, I would say 10 miles an hour is almost max. It will handle it. It will, until it won't. And again, you're really going to be stressing the airframe itself with these smaller motors that are run a little higher RPM, smaller props. Battery life, you can watch this thing. It's super smart. I think it's amazing how great that is, but watch how much it drops. There's a point right here where we're 2 minutes and 45 seconds in, and we're already down to 16 minutes left, which would have been like 19-minute flight time. Whereas we start the entire flight, and when we do, there's like 27 minutes of flight time, perceived as possible. So just kind of crazy that it estimates that, and you see how much battery or how much power we were using and how much it started going, you better hurry up and get home. So again, fly safe, fly smart, guys. Just fly. DJI Mavic though, man, made it back home in 40-mile-an-hour winds. Not really any video to show you. I was shooting live, so I wasn't recording. And I deleted the live footage just because I ended the live broadcast almost immediately because I wanted to focus. So there you go. But we got it back. Thanks, Catton, for almost driving and holding my hand while I was panicky a little bit. Fly safe, fly.